I never thought I'd pull a gun on my best friend in the middle of a Wall Street cocktail party. But there I was, the cold steel of my father's old revolver pressing into the small of my back like a guilty secret finally breaking free. The room smelled of expensive scotch and betrayal. Crystal glasses clinking like fragile lies as I watched her laugh with the suits who'd ruined us both. Smile for the cameras. Elena, I whispered to myself. My finger itching on the trigger, I knew I'd never pull, not yet. Anyway, because revenge isn't about the bang, it's about the slow bleed that leaves them begging for the bullet. My name is Madison Hale, and the day I lost everything started with a spreadsheet glitch that nobody saw coming. It was a Tuesday in late summer. The kind of sticky Manhattan heat that makes you question why anyone ever left the Midwest for this concrete jungle. I was 32, fresh off a PhD in computational biology from MIT, and I'd clawed my way into Vertex Labs as a lead data analyst. The gig was a dream, crunching numbers on gene editing trials that could rewrite medicine, save lives, maybe even snag me a Nobel someday. But dreams in big pharma? They're just the pretty wrapping on a poison pill. Elena Vasquez was the Ian to my young back then. We met in undergrad at Yale. Two broke-ass Latinas from nowhere towns, me from a Rust Belt factory in Ohio, her from a migrant camp in California's Central Valley, bonding over late-night ramen and rants about the Ivy League's glass ceilings. She was the firecracker, all sharp wit and sharper heels, while I was the steady engine, the one who double-checked the math so her wild hypotheses didn't crash and burn. By the time we hit Vertex, she was my roommate in a cramped Brooklyn walk-up, my plus one at every awkward pharma mixer. And yeah, the one person I'd have taken a bullet for. Or so I thought. The project was Prometheus, a CRISPR-based therapy targeting pancreatic cancer, the silent killer that had claimed my mom when I was 16. We'd modeled the data for months, simulating protein folds and mutation rates on supercomputers that hummed like distant thunder. Elena led the wet lab, pipettes and petri dishes while I handled the dry side, the algorithms that predicted trial outcomes. Our boss, Dr. Harlan Crow, was the silver fox type, Harvard MD, TED Talk darling, with a corner office overlooking the Hudson and a Rolodex full of venture capitalists drooling over our IP. It was Harlan who greenlit the Phase 1 push, betting the farm on our prelims. This is the one, ladies, he'd say, clapping us on the backs like we were his prize fillies. 9.5 mil in seed funding. And that's just the appetizer. Vertex had sunk everything into it: loans, equity, the kitchen sink, because one breakthrough meant billions. But on that Tuesday, as I sipped my third black coffee and stared at the terminal, the numbers didn't add up. A cascade error in the simulation pipeline. Tiny, innocuous, a floating point rounding bug in the Python script I'd inherited from the last analyst. It inflated efficacy rates by 0.3%, enough to make our models sing like angels. I'd flagged it weeks ago in an internal memo, but Elena had waved it off. Mess? It's noise. Harlan's breathing down our necks for the board deck. Fix it post-submission. No one's looking that deep. Her eyes had that plea in them. The one that said, please, for once, bend the rules with me. And God help me, I did. I patched the output file, buried the anomaly in a footnote, and hit send on the report that would light the fuse. The board ate it up. Cheers. Champagne toasts in the atrium. Harlan slapping my ass in front of the interns like we'd just cured death. Vertex's stock ticker blinked green on every Bloomberg screen from here to Silicon Valley. Elena and I, we were golden. She got a corner cubicle upgrade, I got a fat bonus check that paid off my student loans in one swipe. For a hot minute, life felt like the American dream we'd been sold. Hustle hard, win big, rinse and repeat. Then the trials hit phase 1. Real patients, 50 of them. Staged for cases who'd signed waivers thicker than my thesis. The first dosings went smooth, PET scans lighting up like Christmas trees. But by week 8, the outliers emerged. Tumors regressing too fast, then rebounding with a vengeance. Adverse events piled up, organ failures. Cytokine storms that turned lungs to soup. We lost 3 patients in a single weekend, their charts bleeding red flags across my dashboard. Panic rippled through the C-suite like a bad acid trip. Harlan locked the lab down. NDAs flew faster than flu shots, and the FDA's hounds started sniffing. It took forensic dives into the code, nights blurring into dawn with Red Bull IVs and takeout cartons stacking like Jenga to trace it back. That goddamn rounding error. It hadn't just padded the numbers, it had masked a fatal interaction in the Cas9 delivery vector. Our breakthrough was a ticking bomb, and the shrapnel was embedding in flesh. The board convened at dawn on a Friday, the kind of meeting where ties come off and voices drop to whispers. I sat at the end of the table, Elena to my left, Harlan pacing like a caged wolf. "We're pulling the plug," he growled, slamming a fist that rattled the water glasses. "Full recall. Black box warnings. The works. That's $9.5 million down the drain. Plus lawsuits that'll bleed us dry." His eyes landed on me, cold as steel. "And heads will roll. Madison. Starting with whoever signed off on that sim." Elena's hand found mine under the table, squeezing hard enough to bruise. It was a team effort. "Harlan." We all missed it, but her voice cracked, and I knew. She'd been the one to initial the final validation, her login, her digital John Hancock on the report that lied to the world. I could have thrown her under the bus right there. It was Elena's call to submit unpatched. Boom. Done. My neck saved. Hers on the block. But loyalty's a bitch. Isn't it? That bone-deep sisterhood forged in dorm room tears and shared dreams. Instead, I swallowed the razor blades in my throat and said, "It was me." I rubber-stamped it. My oversight. Harlan's gaze softened. Just a flicker, pity, maybe, or relief. "Christ, kid. You're firing yourself?" He didn't wait for an answer. By noon, HR had my resignation drafted, severance package thinner than rice paper, and a gag order that'd choke a horse. Elena hugged me in the ladies' room, tears streaking her mascara. "I owe you, miss. Forever. We'll fight this together." Her perfume clung to my blouse like a promise. I walked out of Vertex that day with a cardboard box of bobbleheads and a soul heavier than lead. The headlines hit by evening. Vertex Labs halts cancer trial amid safety concerns. Stock plunges 40%. Pundits on CNBC dissected it like vultures, blaming reckless innovation and regulatory blind spots. My name stayed buried. Harlan's doing a quiet favor for the fall guy, but the whispers followed me home. Trolls on LinkedIn calling for my head, old profs ghosting my emails, even my super in the building side-eyeing me like I'd poisoned the water supply. Elena vanished into radio silence for a week, then reemerged with apologies via text, staying low. Harlan's got me on damage control. Dinner soon? I bought it. Because what else was there? Forgiveness is the opioid of the betrayed, numbing the edges until you can't feel the knife anymore. But knives have hilts, and mine was sharpening. Late nights in my shoebox apartment, scrolling dark web forums on trial ethics, piecing together the autopsy reports that Vertex tried to seal. The patients' faces haunted me, grainy photos from GoFundMe pages, families pleading for miracles we'd half delivered, half destroyed. One mom, widowed with twins, her eulogy video looping on my laptop. She believed in the science. They said it would save her.
They. Not me.
But it was. That's when the first crack appeared in Elena's armor. A leaked email chain surfaced on a whistleblower site, anonymous. Of course, showing Harlan pushing to massage the data pre-submission. Buried in the thread, Elena's reply. Understood. Mads will handle the SIM tweaks. My stomach twisted like a gut-punch snake. She'd thrown me to the wolves not once, but from the jump. And Harlan? He hadn't just covered, he'd orchestrated, pinning it all on the junior analyst to shield his golden girl. Elena was no victim. She was the architect, the one who'd bedded Harlan at the last AACR conference, rumors I'd dismissed as jealous gossip. Now it clicked, the fast-track promotions, the closed-door strategy sessions, the way he'd always buffered her from the grunt work. She'd played me like a fiddle, using our history as camouflage while she climbed on my back. Rage isn't hot, it's a cold forge, hammering resolve from the wreckage. I started digging deeper, freelance gigs paying the rent while I built a shadow dossier. Court filings from the family's suits, insider tips from disgruntled Vertex alums, even a shady PI who tailed Elena to a Hamptons rental co-signed by Harlan. The picture coalesced, not just a glitch, but systemic rot. Falsified consent forms, off-books payments to accelerate recruitment, and worst, a secondary trial in Mexico, dosed without IRB approval, racking up bodies south of the border, where oversight was a joke. By fall, I had enough for a congressional subpoena, but that was too clean, too slow. These bastards had stolen more than my career. They'd peddled hope laced with hemlock, left graves unmarked for the desperate.
No.
I wanted them to feel the unraveling, thread by thread, until their empire frayed at the seams. It began small. An anonymous tip to the Times Pharma beat, Vertex's dirty laundry, check the Mexican clinics. The story dropped like a grenade. Stock dipping another 15%. Harlan's face on every morning show looking like he'd aged a decade. Elena texted me in a panic. WTF?
Mads?
You seeing this? Harlan's flipping out.
I didn't reply.
Let her sweat. Next came the families. I reached out under a pseudonym, concerned colleague, offering redacted files, connecting them with pro bono sharks who'd salivate over Vertex's deep pockets. The class action buzzed like a hornet's nest. Depositions scheduled that pinned Harlan in the hot seat. He lawyered up, but the damage was viral. Vertex lies trending. Protests outside their HQ, with signs reading, "Not worth dying for." Elena tried to bridge the gap, cornering me at a dive bar in the village where we used to drown sorrows. She looked wrecked, hair frizzed, eyes puffy from crying or coke. Who knew? Mess?
Please.
It's not what you think. Harlan. He pressured me. I was scared, her hand on my arm. That old plea. We're sisters. Help me fix this. I stared into my whiskey, the ice melting like trust. Sisters don't forge signatures on death warrants. Elena. Her face crumpled, but I saw the flicker, the calculation, weighing if I'd crack. I didn't. Instead, I slid a USB across the scarred wood.
Take it.
It's the full audit trail. Use it to save your ass.
Lies.
Of course. That drive was malware. A Trojan horse keyed to her login, set to exfiltrate every Vertex server it touched. She pocketed it with a sob, hugging me like salvation. Thank you.
God.
I love you. As she stumbled into the night, I fired at my laptop, the back door cracking open like a confessional. Emails, financials, the works downloading in encrypted bursts. Harlan's offshore slush fund for consulting fees. Elena's bonus tied to trial milestones, even as the bodies cooled. It was a gold mine, but I held fire. The best revenge? Timing. Winter hit New York like a grudge. Snow piling on the stoops while Vertex hemorrhaged cash. Harlan floated buyout rumors. Elena jumped ship to a boutique firm in Boston, consulting. She called it, but I knew better. She'd flipped again, testifying in a hush-hush arbitration to shave her exposure, painting me as the rogue element. Madison was brilliant, but unstable. The pressure got to her. Unstable. The word burned,
But it fueled me.
I went dark for months, holing up in a sublet in Queens, piecing the puzzle with a hacker buddy from my crypto days. We traced the money, that $9.5 million seed, half laundered through shell core linked to Harlan's ex-wife. A setup to dodge alimony.
Elena?
She'd skimmed $200K in relocation expenses, funneled to a Cayman account. The betrayal deepened, not just professional, but personal. She'd known about my mom's cancer run, weaponized it to guilt me into silence. Think of the lives, Mads, she'd cooed, while counting the dead as collateral. Spring thawed the streets, and with it, my plan crystallized. The annual biotech summit in D.C., Harlan's Mecca, where VCs circle like sharks. Elena would be there, arm candy on his rebound. I'd crash it, not with a scene, but a scalpel. A keynote slot, bought with freelance cred, where I'd unveil the research that cost them everything. Not accusations, data. Irrefutable, peer-reviewed slides mapping the fraud from glitch to grave. But fate's a cruel editor. 2 nights before the summit, my PI called with a bombshell. Elena was pregnant. Harlan's.
From the timeline.
The flip-flopper supreme, trading her soul for a ring and a nursery. It humanized her, just enough to waver my resolve. Was I the monster now, orphaning an unborn kid in my vendetta? The moral quicksand sucked at my boots. I showed, anyway, tuxedo sharp in a sea of lanyards. The revolver, unloaded, a prop from my dad's estate, in my clutch like a talisman. Harlan spotted me from the podium, mid-schmooze, his smile freezing like bad Botox. Elena, belly just starting to show under her sheath dress, paled when our eyes locked across the ballroom. The hook was set. Now to reel them in. The summit ballroom pulsed with that false bonhomie of industry confabs, handshakes like vice grips, laughter echoing off chandeliers that cost more than my yearly rent. I nursed a club soda at the bar, the fizz biting my tongue like suppressed screams, watching Harlan work the room. He was in his element, salt and pepper hair gelled back. Monologue ing about resilient innovation to a cluster of wide-eyed MBAs. Elena hovered at his elbow, one hand protectively on her midsection, the other clutching a champagne flute she pretended to sip. She'd dyed her hair blonde, suburban camouflage. I guessed, but those eyes, dark and darting, gave her away. My keynote was slotted for 8 p.m., right after the cocktail break. Ethical algorithms in precision medicine. The program built it, dry enough to fly under radar, punchy enough to gut them. I'd rehearsed in front of my bathroom mirror 100 times. Voice steady as a surgeon's hand. No histrionics, just facts. Projected in 24-point aerial, with hyperlinks to the source docs I'd seeded on a Tor-hidden server. The audience would eat it up, academics nodding sagely, journos live tweeting, VCs shifting uncomfortably as the news tightened. But Elena made her move first. She sidled up as the MC called the toast, her perfume cutting through the cigar haze like a siren's call. "Mads," she breathed, voice a husky plea. "We need to talk. Please." Up close. The changes hit hard, faint stretch marks peeking from her neckline, a softness to her jaw that 9 months could etch. She looked maternal, vulnerable. The kind of glow that makes you question if revenge is just resentment in a trench coat. I let her lead me to a service corridor, the din muffling to a hum behind velvet ropes. "What the hell are you doing here?" she hissed. But there was no heat, just desperation. "Harlan told me you were out west. Some think tank gig."
This
"This is suicide. Suicide's what you peddle to those patients," I shot back, keeping my tone even, a poker face honed from years of boardroom BS. "Or did you forget the Mexican addendum? The one where you okayed unblind dosing for compassionate use?" Her flinch was visceral, hand flying to her belly like I'd swung at it. "That was Harlan's call. He said it was controlled. Low risk." Tears welled, smudging her eyeliner into raccoon rings. I was in over my head.
mess.
The pressure. The money. It snowballed. "But you covered for me. Why throw it away now? Because covering for you costs lives."
Elena.
3 in Jersey, 7 south of the border. And me, blackballed. Broke. Waking up screaming from nightmares of consent forms I didn't forge, but signed anyway. The words tumbled out, rawer than I'd planned, the corridor closing in like a confessional booth. "You used me. Our friendship. My grief. All to climb that greasy pole." She reached for my hand, and damn if I didn't let her take it. Skin on skin. The old spark flickering, late-night confessions. Her braiding my hair after a bad date. Us toasting to smashing the patriarchy with boxed wine. I messed up. Bad. But this baby. It's a reset. Harlan stepping back. We're moving to Connecticut. Suburbs. Schools. The whole picket fence lie. Help me bury this
mess.
for old times. The ask hung there, a lifeline laced with arsenic. Forgive and forget? Co-author a white paper on lessons learned. Maybe even godmother the kid? It was the American way, second chances for the connected, slaps on the wrist for white-collar sins. Part of me ached for it, that illusion of sisterhood unbroken. But the dossier burned in my clutch. Gigabytes of proof that her reset was built on my ruin. "I can't," I said finally,
Pulling away.
"Not anymore." Her face shattered. But before she could shatter me with guilt, the MC's voice boomed over the PA. "Next up, Madison Hale on ethical algorithms." She grabbed my wrist, nails digging crescents. "Don't do this. You'll destroy us all."
Us.
As if I were still in the club. I shook free, straightening my blazer, and strode back into the light. The stage was a thrust of polished teak, spotlights hot as interrogation lamps. 300 faces turned, peers, predators, the press, Harlan front row. his jaw a granite ledge. I clicked the remote, and the first slide bloomed. The cost of confirmation bias, a case study in CRISPR modeling.
Dry.
Academic. Then the second, a heat map of the sim error. Red blooms spreading like blood in water. Gasps rippled. Phones emerging like weapons. I spoke without notes. Voice amplified but steady. In 2023, a Phase 1 trial at a major New York firm promised revolution. What it delivered was regret. Charts flowed. Efficacy curves diverging from reality. Adverse event timelines spiking like EKG flatlines. I named no names yet, but the dots connected themselves. Harlan shifted, whispering furiously to his aide. Elena had vanished, probably retching in the ladies. By slide 10, the room crackled, academics murmuring citations, a Wall Street Journal reporter typing furiously. The human toll, I continued, voice dipping low, wasn't abstract. It was 50 families, betting our last on data we knew was flawed. A pause. The projector humming. Then the kicker, anonymized patient IDs, cross-referenced with public obits. Faces faded in, smiling avatars from memorial pages. The mom with the twins. A retired teacher from Queens. A father who'd coached Little League. Chaos erupted. Harlan bolted upright, barking at security, but the MC froze, torn between protocol and the scoop of the decade. This is Vertex, someone shouted from the back. Crow's Frankenstein project. Phones buzzed. Twitter, sorry. X, ignited with biotech betrayal. I held the stage, remote in hand, as if I could will the world to see the math behind the madness. Security escorted me off mid-slide. Polite but firm. Ma'am, we have to clear the venue, but the damage was viral. By the time I hit the cab, my inbox overflowed. Interview requests, lawyer cold calls, even a tip from an FDA insider promising an audit. Harlan's team spun it fast. Disgruntled ex-employee. Sour grapes, but the data didn't lie. Stocks tanked pre-market. Dawn raids on Vertex offices trended on CNN. Elena called at 3 a.m. Voicemail a slurry of sobs. You bitch. You absolute bitch. The baby's coming early, stress. They said. Harlan's divorcing me. The board's suing. What did you do? I deleted it. But the guilt gnawed. A rat in the walls. Had I gone too far? Orphaning a child for crimes not yet fully hers? The headlines blurred morality. Whistleblower or wrecking ball? Pundit split. Heroes on the left praising transparency. Conservatives decrying woke sabotage of American innovation. I holed up in a motel off I-95, Jersey Turnpike droning like white noise. Plotting the endgame. The dossier was half-leaked, enough to cripple, not kill. Harlan was cornered. Elena collateral. But the twist? My PI unearthed a final thread. The rounding error wasn't random. It traced to a backdoor script, uploaded via Elena's credentials months before submission. Not a glitch, a sabotage. She'd tanked it deliberately, framing me to cover her own embezzlement. The $200,000 skim? Chump change next to the insider trade, shorting Vertex stock pre-trial, pocketing millions when it cratered. The betrayal boomeranged, deep and double-edged. My sister hadn't just used me, she'd engineered my fall to mask her greed. Rage reignited. Pure now, laced with the bitter clarity of the truly played. No more gray, this was black and white. Or so I told myself as I drove south. Revolver cleaned and loaded for metaphor. Mostly. The climax loomed, a confrontation at Harlan's vineyard estate, where Elena had fled to recuperate. The Hamptons in May is a postcard lie. Manicured lawns. Waves whispering wealth, but I slipped through like a shadow. Fence cutters from the hardware store singing in my pocket. The house loomed, modernist glass and steel, lit like a stage set. Elena answered the door in a silk robe, belly full term, eyes hollowed by hospital fluorescence.
Mess.
How? I pushed past. Gun drawn but low. The metal cool against my palm. We're finishing this. All of it. Harlan emerged from the study, scotch in hand, face a mask of feigned calm. Miss Hale. To what do we owe the midnight visit? The living room was a shrine to excess, abstract art worth my life savings. A grand piano no one played. I tossed the printouts on the coffee table, bank statements, trade logs, the backdoor code stamped with Elena's IP. Game over. You two scripted the whole farce. Elena ghosts the sim. I take the heat. You short the stock and ride the rebound. 9.5 million losses? Your retirement fund. Elena sank to the couch, hand cradling her bump, whispering denials that dissolved into whimpers. Harlan? He laughed, low and bitter, pouring another finger. Clever girl. But proof's a slippery thing. Those docs? Circumstantial. And you, waving that pea shooter like it's Excalibur? That's assault. Madison. Career suicide squared. He had a point. The gun trembled, not fear, but the weight of the line I towed. Pull the trigger, and I join them in the abyss. But revenge isn't bullets, it's exposure. I hit send on my phone, the full dossier beaming to every major outlet. The SEC, even the DA's cybercrimes unit. It's done, I said, voice steel. Tick-tock till the cuffs. Sirens wailed distant. Neighbors roused by the PI's anonymous 911. Elena labored to her feet, clutching the table. Wait, contraction. Oh God. It's time. Water broke on Persian rug. A biblical flood. Harlan froze, paternal instinct cracking his facade.
Elena, brete.
Madison. Help her. The room spun into farce. Me, the Avenger, dialing 911 while timing her breaths. Harlan pacing with towels. As paramedics stormed in, Elena gripped my hand, eyes locking mine. Forgive me. Not sorry, entreating. Like always. I didn't answer. The twist hit as they loaded her stretcher. My phone buzzed with a congressman's aide. MS.
Hale?
The committee's convening. Your testimony could rewrite the regs. Vindication? Or just another rung on the ladder they greased. The ambulance lights painted the vineyard driveway in staccato blue. A disco for the damned as they wheeled Elena out. She was moaning through contractions now, sweat slick and savage, her robe parting to reveal the taut dome of her belly, a life kicking against the dying light of her choices. Harlan clambered in after her, barking orders at the EMTs like he owned the rig, his tycoon bluster masking the panic of a man who'd finally lost control.
Me?
I stood on the gravel, revolver heavy in my pocket, the sirens fading like a bad dream I wasn't ready to wake from. Cops swarmed 10 minutes later, 2 cruisers. Lights popping but no sirens. The Hamptons' way of handling scandals among the elite. The lead detective, a grizzled NYPD transplant named Kowalski, eyed me like yesterday's suspect sketch. Madison Hale?
We got a call about a break-in. And
possible firearm. His partner. A rookie with a buzz cut and a body cam. Hovered. Hand on holster. I raised my hand slow. The universal surrender. Self-defense. Harlan Crow's expecting you. No point in bluffing, the dossier was live. Pinging alerts from DC to Davos. By dawn. It was everywhere. Bloomberg's Vertex fraud. The backdoor that broke biotech. The Post's tabloid splash with Elena's mug from some forgotten DUI. The SEC froze assets. FBI cyber teams raided Vertex's servers, hauling boxes of hard drives like spoils of war. They cuffed Harlan at the hospital, right there in the maternity ward as Elena pushed through transition. She delivered a boy 7 pounds even, Apgar perfect, screaming into a world already tainted by his parents' sins. Harlan's last free act, kissing the kid's forehead through the nursery glass, whispering promises he'd never keep. Daddy's got this.
Sean.
Bullshit. All of it. The feds had him cold. Wire fraud. Securities violations. Enough counts to bury him under Rikers for a decade.
Elena.
She flipped faster than a bad stock tip. Postpartum haze or survival instinct. Who knows, by week 2, she'd cut a deal, testifying against Harlan for immunity. He coerced me, her statement read, leaked to TMZ for maximum pathos. I was scared, manipulated. Madison was the real hero, she tried to warn us. Hero. The word twisted like a knife in butter. Her betrayal reframed as victimhood. The press lapped it up. Pregnant whistleblower spills on pharma kingpin.
Me?
I was the wild card. The ghost in the machine. No charges, self-defense held, and the gun was registered to my late dad. Unloaded to boot, but the fallout clung like Jersey humidity. Protests swelled outside Vertex's husk. Renamed Hale hearings by wonks pushing for AI ethics bills. I testified in July. Senate chamber cool as a crypt. Senators grilling me on the human element in code. Cameras flashed. Pundits dissected my cool under fire vibe. Offers poured in, TED slots. Book deals. Even a Netflix true crime pitch titled The Glitch That Killed. But victory's a hollow echo. Elena got house arrest in Connecticut, ankle monitor clinking like ironic jewelry, raising little Harlan Jr. in a McMansion bought with plea bargain scraps. She reached out once. A letter scrawled on monogrammed stationery. Mads. The boy's got your eyes, fierce. Like his aunt.
Can we try?
For him, I burned it in the sink. The flames dancing shadows on my kitchen wall. Forgiveness? That's for saints and suckers. I'd saved her ass once. The kid was her debt now. Harlan rotted in white-collar purgatory, club fed, golf on weekends, penning a memoir that painted him as the fall guy for rogue elements.
Me?
The rogue. Critics called it gaslighting gold. But it sold. Topping charts while I dodged paparazzi in Ohio. Crashing at my aunt's double-wide. The Rust Belt welcomed me back like a prodigal. Factory shifts at the old steel mill. Nights tutoring calc at the community college. Grounded. Gritty, the anti-Hamptons. The twist came in October. Crisp leaves crunching underfoot as I jogged the Cuyahoga trails. A manila envelope. No return address. Stuffed in my P.O. box. Inside, a USB. Same as the one I'd slipped Elena months back. And a note in her looping script. You deserved the truth.
Play it. E.
Trembling fingers plugged it in. Not malware this time, a video file. Timestamped to that DC summit night. Grainy security cam from the green room. Me. Pacing pre-keynote. Phone to ear. My voice. Tinny but clear. Yeah. Leak the prelims. Make it look organic. The recipient? A burner number traced to my own PI. I'd commission the initial tip, the time story, the family's hookup. Not exposure for justice, but orchestrated chaos to prime the pump. The realization hit like a freight train. I'd played myself. Doubled down on the fraud, not to blow it open, but to control the blast radius.
Why?
In the fog of rage, I'd shorted Vertex too, a fuck you fund, $50K from savings, cashed out at the nadir for a tidy 300% return. Anonymous trades, laundered through crypto, but Elena's sleuthing, hired hackers, maybe had unraveled it. She'd known all along. Let me unravel her world. Then handed me the noose. Schrodinger's revenge. Was I avenger or accomplice? The gray swallowed me whole. No sides to choose. I could burn the drive, bury the secret, ride the hero wave to tenure at some state school. Or confess. Trade my win for a plea. Join the club of flawed fuck-ups. The debate raged in dive bars and Reddit threads. Hail, saint or serpent. Pundits picked teams, feminists hailed my grit. Libertarians decried the overreach, while I stared at the ceiling. Revolver on the nightstand. Unloaded but loaded with what-ifs. In the end, I chose the road less paved. Anonymized the footage. Seeded it to a dark web ethics forum with a manifesto. The mistake was ours all. Reform starts with reckoning. No names, no glory, just the raw code of complicity. Vertex dissolved into a foundation. Funding transparent trials. Elena faded to PDA meetings and therapy. Harlan's book bombed. His appeals denied.
Me?
I stayed in Ohio. Adjuncting by day. Writing by night. Not a tell-all, but fiction. Stories of sisters who betray and rebuild. Glitches that heal instead of harm. The $9.5 million? It echoes in every equation. A reminder that in America's grind, we're all rounding errors flawed. Fatal. Forgivable maybe. Last spring, a package arrived. Booties. Blue and tiny. With a card. Aunt Mads? He's walking.
Come see?
I didn't go. But I didn't burn it either. Revenge's end isn't the kill, it's the quiet after. When the ghosts whisper what if, and you finally sleep.